I'm Ryan.
Okay, that's Brett. I'm Braxton. Oh, you said pass.
I'm Brett.
I'm talking about Mountain Dew, baby.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
We were talking
What's so
about our upcoming fantasy football names here, and some of the ones that have been thrown out are hilarious, and it got Brett so tickled that he
Started crying.
can't breathe currently.
That's an achievement when you can make him
Yeah.
cry.
I mean, always. There's always a chance that you make Brett cry.
It doesn't take that much.
Anyway, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the question at hand. Hope everybody's doing absolutely phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, tell them how it is.
I'm still
Hope
good
everybody's doing
enough to
absolutely
say
phenomenal. So it actually at this point it's probably been a little while, but recently in the recent history, a DB Cooper docuseries went live on Netflix, and we did an episode with Brett. That was actually your inaugural podcast episode.
Yeah.
Was the DB Cooper episode. We did an episode with Brett where we talked about DB Cooper, and Brett gave some of his theories, and then this show went really in depth on this guy named Robert Rackstraw. But before we get into that, I do want to play that most iconic part of the entire series. And that is the intro for every episode.
Okay.
It's
a good intro.
It is possibly one of the greatest intros that I can remember. Now, remember, this is about DB Cooper. And DB Cooper, if you're unaware, is the only unsolved skyjacking ever. Of course.
He did what? No, I'm joking.
So he stole a plane, jumped out, was never found. And
Oh, thank God.
with that stage set, this is the intro.
Okay. Okay, I do like it into the plane sound. What is that sound called, actually? I've never...
You
The
were
fasten
freedom
your
of the
seatbelts.
country.
Yeah, but does that have a real, like...
Yeah, it's the fasten your
And why
seatbelt
did they
sign.
why did they pick
Sound.
that sound?
I
Brett,
don't know.
you don't know?
I don't know.
No, give me
It's
your-
airplane
give me your license.
related. I don't know.
Give me your license back right now.
His plane expert license.
But it's,
Yeah.
it's always the same. It's always the... It's also the no smoking.
I
even
will
though
say
you can't
that my
smoke on a plane.
expertise is
not
not
heard of no
really
smoking.
as much in commercial aviation. It's more
Military.
I know what
Back from your
military
days in
plane
Nam.
noises are.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't, but
Yeah. But yeah, that's how it started out. And I was like, oh, well, this is pretty cool. Like, there's a show about DB Cooper. And it opens up and they start talking about stuff. And then it was like, doo-doo-doo. And I was like, okay, this is... I'm here just for the
I'm
intro.
here for the do-do-do.
you sent me like
I'm
a
here for
text
the
or
intro.
something.
And I was like, dude, have you watched this? And you were like, no. And I said, the intro is amazing. That's all I said. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it was the intro is amazing. Not, oh, crap, they solved it. Like, just the intro is amazing.
Yep.
And it's good. It's a good intro. I watched every episode just for the intro, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, the information was cool. But the intro,
Yeah.
the intro, man. Now, I will say, I did go back and listen to our podcast
Mm-hmm.
that we did the first time. And let's see. I
Bad
wrote
review?
these guys down because you talked about two different suspects that I can remember. And they were Kenneth Christensen
Mm-hmm.
and
Kenneth
Richard
Branagh.
Floyd McCoy Jr.
Yeah. Out of, at least if we're excluding Robert Rackstraw, the one that I think, in my opinion, the one that could have pulled it off the easiest was McCoy. Mainly because he actually gets caught only a few, I think it's either months or maybe a year later, basically pulling off the exact same kind of skyjacking that DB Cooper did.
So that
Yeah.
the likelihood just sort of shoots up.
Yeah, I
anyway.
mean, it was the exact same plane, almost the exact same scenario.
It was just sloppier.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's almost like if he was DB Cooper, he got too complacent. I
Right.
was like, yeah, I've done it once. I can probably do it again.
And man, that does happen.
So
People who do stuff like that.
but then he ended up dying in prison or something like that. So
Dang.
we don't really know.
Unsatisfying ending.
Yeah.
What a sad
For
way
him
to
as
go.
well.
But yeah,
For
so
real.
that's there's not really a whole lot else to say about him other than he really did do the exact same thing as DB Cooper did. He just got caught. And that makes him intriguing because, again, if he's doing the exact same thing, it means that
Yeah.
What was the evidence that this series presented pointing away from him? If he did the exact same murder,
I'm
what?
trying to
made
remember
him cross the line?
because they do bring him up. I want to say that the reason why
His name was actually Dan, not DB. That's why they thought it wasn't him.
I think it's because
Richard Floyd McCoy.
That's a
Jr.
joke.
I think it's because he doesn't match any of the descriptions of like what the flight attendants said DB Cooper looked like. They just don't think he looks the same. And I want to say there could have been some kind of alibi that
Yeah. I remember
that
now.
McCoy had.
Yeah.
So he would just be like a copycat, basically.
Mhm. But it
Pretty
wasn't
much.
solid evidence. It was
Liquid.
again. Yeah. From what I remember, it just.
Okay, so
Men
the
are
main
solid.
the main guy that they focus on in this entire docuseries is a guy named Robert Rackstraw. Would you care to elaborate on
Which
Robert
sounds like a
Rackstraw?
Harry Potter character.
Robert
So-
Rackstraw.
Reason why Robert Rackstraw just kind of comes to the forefront is because he has a lot of military experience that would have prepared him, I guess, in the know-how to perform a parachute jump like he did.
Especially in an era when not many people would be familiar with how to do a parachute jump.
Yes, he actually was a special forces guy in Vietnam, and then he also had a pilot's license. He also worked for, I think it was Northwest Orient Airlines, the same airline that he ends up hijacking for a brief time. So he's very familiar with all the surrounding area and also the inside workings of the airline. So, and then he also matches the physical description. The only thing that does kind of make it a little bit iffy on the physical description is everyone said that saw DB Cooper on the plane said that he was probably in his early 40s, possibly even 50s. But at the time of the skyjacking,
He was like 20.
he was like 26
something, 26,
or
27,
28.
something like that.
Yeah. So,
Maybe he's an old-looking guy.
but yeah, I mean, like, if you look at the pictures of what Robert Rackstraw looked like at the time compared to the drawings of DB Cooper, there's some similarities. I mean, and this may just be...
Did they ever have him put on sunglasses? That's the key.
Here's one of the funny things. Whenever they confront him, like whenever he's
wearing sunglasses.
60 or 70 years old, he is wearing sunglasses. But the problem is, he's so much older, he has a beard.
Right,
and
it doesn't-
everything. He
yeah.
doesn't look anything.
He had a beard, and it felt weird.
He had a beard. Is that what you're saying about DB Cooper's possible? First, he had a beard and it felt weird.
Man.
It's a plane, 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 it's a plane.
It's a lip. Good grief. I don't know where I pulled that from. That came out of nowhere. Man. Yeah, Robert Rackstraw. I mean, he was definitely the guy they focused on a lot.
Yeah.
Was there any new evidence that you got while watching this that you were like, oh, crap, I didn't know that?
Pertaining to Robert Rackstraw?
Pertaining
or just,
to anybody, I
okay,
guess.
the intriguing thing that they bring up kind of at the end of this series that nobody really in this whole investigation had looked to is Canada. Okay, could the hijacker, okay, whether it was Rackstraw or not, probably not Rackstraw if we're going down this route, could the hijacker actually have been Canadian?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, there's a good reason why there wasn't any investigation into whether he could have been Canadian, because one of the things that they bring up is there wasn't a whole lot of cooperation between FBI, CIA, and any of the Canadian authorities at the time. So if this was a Canadian and successfully carried out this hijacking and went back to Canada, well, nobody was following his tracks up that way. And what makes it even more interesting, and one of the reasons why he's named D.B. Cooper, okay, or Dan Cooper, is there's a comic book series that was, I guess it was it French?
I think it was French,
It
yeah.
was a French comic book called Dan Cooper, where this guy's a pilot, okay, in the comic book, and he skydives on multiple occasions.
No.
So-
Yeah, dude.
That's
so
what
that-
it is then.
That's
what it is.
probably
It's crazy.
that's probably
know
the
that.
origin of the name.
Did you know that before the series?
Well, I want to say I remember reading something about that, but I didn't really
Like, okay.
plan it in
yeah.
my head
Yeah.
as something too significant.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense, especially if you take into account the Canadian aspect of this, because
That's
could
pretty
he have
close
been
to
from
Canada, too.
could he have been from Quebec
Mhm.
and been a French speaker?
Yeah.
Well, even if he
I don't
wasn't,
know.
the popular media could still be
Yeah.
connected to someone who knows about planes. They would know
Yeah.
his
He
fictional
also
character.
never spoke on the
He only
airplane,
had notes.
and he asked for, when he wrote the letter,
A
he asked
Perrier.
for American currency.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a really strange thing to request.
If you were an American, why would you,
You would
ask
just say,
for
"Give me money."
American currency?
That's
Yeah.
true. And why would the plane have any, or why would they bring anything else
Yeah.
if he just asked for money?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
was a good point.
Mm-hmm. I remember after we did that first D.B. Cooper episode, I think Christian looked up a lot of stuff about it, and he was like, dude, what if he was Canadian? And I was like, I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
But they're too
And
nice.
then they throw in this comic book theory, and I was like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
no freaking way.
It's the perfect crime.
And people who meticulously plan out stuff like that are the type of people who would choose a funny name just because they thought it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And there's so much stuff, there's so much like notoriety with it now that I bet a lot of these guys who are suspects wanted everyone to think that they were the real
Oh, of course.
D.B. Cooper
That's
just
part of it.
because they wanted the allure of being the guy that got away.
He was seen as a folk hero,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and if you're connected to that somehow, even if you're not, that's pretty cool.
I thought it was crazy. They have a convention every year.
Yeah,
That's
I want to go. I want to
Dude,
go.
I
to
was
that.
like,
That'd
that
be
sounds
sweet.
so cool to go to. And apparently they've had some like really notable people that have been connected to the DB Cooper stuff. Like the guy that was like sitting next to him on the plane came up and
That's
spoke
wild.
about it. And like they've had some really interesting
Turns
people
out
that
that's
somehow
DB
got
Cooper.
that were just
He's
just
sitting next to
happened to be
himself.
really close
See,
in
they
proximity.
interviewed that guy,
Mhm.
and
he knew nothing.
One of the funny things that I guess I didn't realize, even though I've done a decent amount of research on this, is that pretty much nobody on the plane knew that the plane was hijacked until they got off.
Yeah.
Because during the first part of this flight, whenever he hands the note to the flight attendant saying, "Hey, I got a bomb and I want some money,"
That's a short flight. Isn't it
nobody.
wasn't it like
yeah,
half an
BB,
hour?
I
or
know
something?
they bomb. It was from Portland to Seattle.
Which is like half an hour or
Yeah.
something, right? 15 minutes.
So-
it was like super
much.
short.
So yeah, the only thing that was a little bit different than the normal flight is they had Cooper had the plane circle the airport until the money could be found, and then it could land. So,
But most
they
people
ju-
would be like,
most people
"Oh,
just
we're
thought it was
delayed,
either like
whatever."
yeah, it
Yeah.
could be anything.
Mm.
But yeah,
That's crazy.
whenever that guy was being interviewed, he said, "Yeah, we had no idea that the plane was hijacked until we got surrounded by reporters after we got off the plane."
That's crazy.
So, I mean,
Whoa.
that's part of the thing. Whenever he is interviewed by all these reporters, they're like, "So what was the hijacker like?"
He's like, I don't know who he
He's
was.
like, he's like, "To be honest, I don't even remember what he looks like all that much."
Because he was just some guy.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
The
I mean, it's
perfect crime.
I know.
I don't know. I mean, it's just some dude on a plane. Like,
And something that's also cool about it is it can only really be done big that way once. Because once you
Yeah.
do it, they plug all the holes that you revealed in the
Yeah.
system.
Well, wasn't that part of the theory that the CIA was involved? It was like almost like a false flag. They staged it themselves so that they could basically whip the airline
Like the FAA
industry into shape
Maybe.
with security because they were so
Stranger
freaked out
things
about
have
it.
happened.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure stuff like that happens way more than anybody knows.
Also,
about.
isn't that the plot of Hot Shots?
What?
That they're trying to make the planes break
Oh,
and
yeah.
make them fail the battle so the army will buy them new planes.
Mhm.
I don't guess I've seen Hot
I've-
Shots recently enough.
I've fallen
to
for
remember
you
that.
like a blind roofer.
I said that the other day.
Oh,
'Cause
you
say it,
did?
yeah, you say it all
in
the
a
time.
romantic setting?
No, you say it all the time. I think we were at the golf course.
Yeah.
I need to remember to say that in a romantic setting and see if it actually.
Go up to a girl. Excuse me, ma'am. I followed for you like a blind roofer.
I think it can work under the right circumstances.
Only if she has a sense of humor.
Yeah, and only if you say it absolutely deadpan. You can't smile or.
No. I've fallen for you
Surely
like a
you can't
blind
be serious. Don't
I
call
am
me Shirley.
serious.
roofer. Excuse me, ma'am. I've fallen for you like a blind roofer. You said exactly like that too. Just not even like just deadpan,
No,
just
just-
like no emotion whatsoever. Excuse me, ma'am.
That's how you do it.
I've
So,
fallen for you like a blind roofer.
What's been found? Cash?
Yeah.
Was that in Washington or Oregon?
I think it was in I think it was in southern Washington.
I think it was in Washington.
It was like right along the border. I remember.
And wasn't it like in a river
Mhm.
bed or something?
Mhm.
Or a bank or something like that?
That's so weird.
But one of the things that they say is that one of their other suspects that was claiming himself to be DB Cooper, he was like, "Yeah, you watch the news." And he was like talking to some people. Now you watch the news. Here in a week, they're gonna find some money that belongs to me along this river. And sure enough, these people found it.
No,
he was, like,
that's
pointing
maybe him setting himself up. I feel like that's him. Like he somehow got some inside information.
I
Right?
can't remember how they made the connection, but
I
even
thought it was
though
the serial numbers on the dollars.
well, yeah, that is right. But even though this one
It
guy
also smelled the same.
was claiming to be DB Cooper, I think he's the one who led them to Robert Rackstraw being the main suspect. And I can't remember exactly how they made that connection. Because they pretty much rule out this guy that was claiming to be DB Cooper pretty early on. I just can't remember.
Even
how
though
they-
he's the one that said
yeah,
there will be money.
I think him and Rackstraw may have been friends, and Rackstraw possibly told this guy where he buried the money.
Maybe.
It's also a theory that Rackstraw may not have been Cooper, but was in the Cooper circle,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and that's how he knew so much.
But one of the problems with this story about this guy saying, here's where the money's going to be found, and then finding it like a week or so later, is the guy that was telling this story. It's a third party guy that was like at this party where he met the guy that said he was DB Cooper. He doesn't come forward with that story until like the 90s or something.
Right.
So he could have just
Dang.
been making
So
it
far
up.
removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my buddies.
I know
told
this
me
guy
that
who knows
in
this
the
guy who
week.
knows this guy who knows this guy who knows this guy who knows this guy's cousin. SpongeBob.
And what happened with the tie? There's a tie left behind?
Yes.
Yeah, the tie got left behind on the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a plain black tie, wasn't it? Like you'd wear with a
It was
suit.
a clip-on.
And it was
a clip-on tie.
It was a clip-on tie, but it also had a tie clip on it that was clipped
Yeah.
from the left, like he was left-handed.
Mm-hmm. And they did some, I guess, what's it called? Forensics?
Mm-hmm.
Forensic research
Forensic
on it.
analysis.
And they found some material in the tie that could only have been found in, like, Boeing factories. So,
Yeah.
so again, that
Which
connection
isn't
to the
surprising.
airline
It makes-
industry.
Yeah.
But I want to say there was some other stuff. Oh yeah, it was the cigarette butts. They found some cigarette butts that they knew that he had smoked while on the plane.
Which is insane.
Mysteriously,
But there was no, of course, forensics to that level at the time. But the fact that you
But
No,
but here's
but
the
they
cigarette
mysteriously disappeared.
Yeah,
like
they
they could
disappeared.
still run analysis on them now and determine who DB Cooper was, but
they got
no one
lost
knows
in
where
an
they are.
evidence locker somewhere.
Literally, no one knows where they are. And who
Yeah.
knows? They may turn up at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where-
because I feel like that's probably not malicious. I feel like that's literally just bureaucracy, like losing crap that's in a drawer somewhere.
cigarette butts. We can't do anything with that. Just throw them away.
Yeah, somebody probably found them and was like, why did someone keep these? Throw them in-
Who in here is keeping?
Or a
cigarette
hobo
butts?
found them and was like, they're still kind of good.
And that was probably one of those things that bolstered the CIA being behind it, because wasn't there a segment where they talked about the FBI was hot on someone's trail and then the CIA stepped in and said,
Yeah.
shut it
It's
down.
over.
Yeah,
It's also weird that the CIA would be involved to me. I feel like that's an exclusively like FBI
yeah.
case.
Usually, how it works.
It's a
is
high level federal crime.
If the FBI,
Why would the CIA?
what I've always kind of learned is that the FBI focuses mostly on internal crimes, and the CIA focus on stuff that's going on
Exactly.
outside of the U.S. But
So why?
Aliens.
Yes.
Well, that makes me think that this is somehow related to espionage, and maybe like the CIA, maybe if they weren't behind it, as in something like what people call false flags, like they
Yeah.
put their own stooge in essentially, and
Mhm.
they knew that no one would get hurt, and there would be this perfectly orchestrated whatever to get what they wanted out of the FAA or whoever it was. But it also makes it seem like there was espionage involved and may have been international. It
Yeah.
may have been like the
Hmm.
CIA knew that Canada was somehow
Yeah.
involved and
That's
said,
true.
we've got people working on it. Like, don't blow this up. We don't want this in the public.
yeah,
Because stuff like that happens all the time. People don't realize the amount of crime and spying that goes on among world superpowers that does not make the news, that people have no idea of. Like, there are literal wars being fought that people do not know about.
Yeah.
In espionage.
Listen here, Canada.
You've
If
had
we
it
do
too
this,
good for too long.
if we do this, it will make your planes so much more secure. You hear me? Air travel will be secure forever until 2001.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Then it will be even more secure. Gosh. Yeah, dude. I mean, there's so much crazy stuff that goes on that nobody knows about. It's like top level clearance stuff that gets pushed under the rug or deleted or
Then
Like-
there's the idea of proxies. Was he acting on individually, or was
Right, because that
he-
actually does
wa-
like happen
was this
more
a
than
Canadian
you think.
ideal of anti U.S. sentiment, or was he a proxy for someone else who wanted to basically like spoof
listen here.
the
We got
US?
too many idiot Americans coming to Canada. We need to make that harder.
We need to make that harder, eh?
We need to do this, but we need to do Mr. Edwards a favor
And talk about
and do one of these about JFK.
A whole podcast about JFK?
Yeah.
I don't know that much about JFK, but I'm down. Other than what we learned,
Let's
and
do it
I didn't
in
even hardly
November.
pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I was like, "What the frick are
The
we watching?"
Zapruder film over and over again, watching a man's brains get shot out of his head.
I was like, "What are we watching?" And the lights were dim, and he was sitting up there watching the TV, and I was like,
Now this is the part when Jackie Kennedy grabs part of his brain that flew out.
did he say that?
No, but that always has stuck in my head.
Well, he didn't say it in your class. There's still like 6 others he could have said it.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that he said something like that.
He probably did.
He definitely
'Cause that's the most disturbing
he was
part to
definitely
me.
like sitting in a chair next to the TV with like a stick to point at the
Yes.
TV and be like, all right, so look here. I'll pause it right when his brains start to fly out.
Yeah.
Now, if I circle this part right here, now you see this? This shows that there were more than one shot.
There are more than one brain.
We can go back to JFK, but here's an interesting question. If the DB Cooper case were to be solved, what year do you think would be like the latest it could be solved and people would still care about it?
I think they're pretty close to never solving it and just doing away with it.
Here's what I think it would be.
If it is
It's
solved,
gotta
I mean, that
be-
is how they ended the docuseries too. Was like all these people.
I think
like,
the reason why there's still a lot of interest is there's still people alive that were personally involved, not only in trying to research the case, but also like we said, people that were on the plane, things like that. So I think once these
What
people
year?
start to die out,
Did it happen?
that's whenever the interest is gonna start to really tank. It happened in 1971.
I'm going to say 2072 is when it's going to die out.
101 years.
Because people still care. Think about Titanic.
it's that 1 year for every Dalmatian.
People still cared about. Yes. People still cared about the Titanic 100 years later.
Yeah,
Now I feel like it's probably
That's
starting
because
to
there's
wane.
a
That's
movie
because of
Tiny
a
bit.
movie, though.
No, but there are other things. I don't know.
It was mostly the movie.
Well, you know what I'm saying. Things 100 years ago,
Yeah.
when it gets past 100 years, then it's kind of
Well-
like, okay, now it's gone from being, oh, that's kind of cool from back then to, oh, it's really old now.
Well, I mean, I
You know what I'm
think
saying?
I think it's still new enough right now, being like almost 50 years, or actually probably a little more
Little
than
over
50 years,
50.
since it occurred.
Yeah.
But it's also like kind of gotten a resurgence lately in pop culture. I mean, we've seen Loki play D.B.
Yeah.
Cooper in the Loki series. This show came out. I'm trying to think. Wasn't there another one pretty recently where they faked being D.B. Cooper in like some other show? The
Without a
Loki one
paddle.
is the most recent one that I can remember. But there, I mean, it's still like there's still been a lot of DB Cooper. Just
Well, it's
like
come back around
memes.
because the popularity of conspiracies now is
Yeah.
skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So
And-
he's kind of a perfect.
and the way
fun,
that they kind of
you know,
ended the docuseries was like, yeah, I kind of hope that like no one ever figures out who he
Yeah,
is. Like
that's
I hope
always
that
like-
it just kind of stays a mystery, and we can keep doing conventions and things where people just have their own theories, and it's
Yeah.
just fun to
it becomes its own
to
thing.
theorize. Because at this point, I mean, he's probably dead
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
by some
I
form
mean,
or
if
fashion.
he-
may not be.
If they
but
estimated his age right, even if he was 20 something,
he'd still
whenever
be
he
in
did
his
this.
70s.
Yeah,
There's no
So-
evidence he ever landed, so he could still be up there.
he's stuck
He's
in
gonna-
a tree.
He's going to crash through the roof right now. He's still falling.
He's just been floating up there on the air currents.
He's in that volcano and
It's Spy Kids too. I was just about to say that. I was
Nah,
just
but
about to say that,
they flew
dude.
at such a low altitude, though. Like, there's no way he's and he didn't die on impact, or they would have found him.
What if he
So-
gets one of those like?
Unless he fell in the lake. Somewhere.
Well, yeah.
What if he gets one of those like wormhole things where he comes popping out like now,
I mean, like
like he
Elvis?
time
what
traveled,
happened in Loki.
like he time traveled.
I mean, like Elvis.
Yes.
Everybody thinks Elvis is still alive.
Yeah. He'll pop out of the beach in Fairly Odd Parents and ask about a.
You know,
Peanut
if he
butter
is still alive,
sandwich.
I bet he went to go watch his movie.
Yeah, I would.
I would too. That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Now, Brett, something else we need to talk about at some point. I don't know how I found this out recently, but it was about the guy who sold like secrets to the Russians in the 80s. Do you know who I'm talking about, or what his name would be?
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
There's
Who
a lot
sold
of double
secrets to the
agents.
Russians in the 80s?
You're not talking about the couple, are you?
no, he was like a guy.
Okay.
That the Rosenberg.
Robert
Rosenbergs,
Hassan, Hansen, Melita Norwood. I don't know. I don't even know if it did the right thing.
No. Hold on. Let me look it up really quick.
Look it up.
Mm.
But yeah, I thought the series was pretty good. And it's like, what, 4 episodes? Like, it wasn't super long. So, if you haven't watched it, it's very interesting. The Dan Cooper, though, when they talked about the comics, I was like mind blown. Like, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense for him to be Canadian and to where we would consider like a Thor or a Superman or something like that, where it's like, oh yeah, this is who I want to be. Like, that's way more realistic than most of the comics that we read.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's what you were like, oh yeah, I bet I could pull that off, especially if you had like the knowledge already to do it, like to skydive and parachute, and you had plane knowledge and all the other stuff. But doesn't he actually say something to the flight attendant? So wouldn't she have heard his voice?
Yeah.
And did she ever say that he had some sort of an accent?
I think whenever they said if he had an accent, it wasn't much of one.
Yeah.
Like it could have been like a Midwestern accent, which is
I mean, about like what we sound like.
one of the things that
That's
was
interesting.
frustrating. Or you can go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
The thing that I found most frustrating was how they tried to confront Robert Rackstraw.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the history documentary, like the History Channel tried to do, or they did a documentary over D.B. Cooper probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And they basically go up to where Robert Rackstraw is living now, which is...
Because he's still alive.
Yeah, at that point, he was still alive. He's dead now.
Oh.
He passed away like 2 years ago. But whenever this history documentary was coming out about D.B. Cooper, the same guys that did this little docuseries, they were working with the History Channel at the time, and they, again, came to the same conclusion that Robert Rackstraw was probably the number one suspect. So they went and tried to confront him where he was working or were living. It was like a yacht club. But they just like come out and say, all right, we know that you're like DB Cooper.
That's such a dumb way to intro it.
I
He
know.
had
it
the
was-
huge glasses with the secret camera on it.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
like
I'm not
they
filming.
come up to him with these cameras like right in his face, and they're like, yeah, we know you're DB Cooper, so how about you just admit it right here and we'll move on. Okay, we'll even give you $15,000 or something.
He already
like
got
that.
the money.
I know, I'm like,
If it was him, he's been holding this secret for 40-something years
Yeah.
at this point. Why would he give any information to
if
anybody?
you came up to someone with cameras randomly that you didn't know and was like, tell us what your brownie recipe is, they wouldn't tell you it because
Yeah.
they would be freaked out by
Yeah.
cameras.
What brownies?
I'm like,
The
They-
weed
I mean-
ones or the regular?
and then
Just regular ones.
and
the
he,
regular brownies.
he gets them to go away for a little bit, but then they keep on coming back. And like, there's this one scene in there where the guy that's, I guess he's kind of the host of the show, of the documentary, he's like standing on one side of a barbed wire fence and like yelling at Rackstraw, like, "Hey, how about you just come out and say it, dude?"
That's such a weird. Everything before is now like negated. Every intelligent thing you said, but you said, "Hey, dude."
Hey, dude, why don't you just come
Like
over
an
here before I have
80-year-old
to come
man.
over there?
Golly.
That's
But yeah, I was
funny,
just
man.
like, dude, this is
Like, you had your one chance to confront this guy, and you did it in the worst way you could have possibly done it.
yep.
Like, didn't you guys plan this a little better before you decided you were just going to show up?
I don't know.
Like, wouldn't that
Maybe
be
they became
something-
so overconfident that they were like, "He's gonna." Tell
Wouldn't
us.
that be
Like, he's
something
gonna
that you would like
discuss beforehand?
rehearse, like Nathan Fielder,
Yes.
before you go up there? I mean, seriously?
I just remembered one thing that they mentioned in this documentary, and it is something to do with Robert Rackstraw, but
He
I
had a
don't know
third
if you
nipple.
guys remember this, but it was, and I had no idea about this, but they theorize that Robert Rackstraw could have killed his father.
Oh
It's
yeah.
either his father or father-in-law. I can't
Which
remember
is not
which one.
connected in any way.
But yeah,
to
it's,
DB
it's not really connected, but it's what they're trying to do is like build this idea that Robert Rackstraw was this guy that was comfortable with committing crime.
Yeah, but to me that's always stupid because killers aren't thieves and thieves aren't killers. It's always a
Yeah.
stretch, right?
Unless
Somebody's
you're a pirate.
meticulous and would.
But I think
Then they're both.
I think the murder of his father or father-in-law was never solved. Still, so it's interesting.
Dang, unsolved, just like DB Cooper.
Yeah,
Robert Rackstraw, did you kill your father? Come on, just admit it.
We have you on now that you are DB Cooper and you killed your father. Do you want to admit to both of those right now? Come on.
No, thank you. And he walks away.
Oh, wasn't he when they showed up? Wasn't he like washing a boat with like a water hose or something?
yeah.
I'm like, you could have at least. And he's just standing there, and they start yelling at him like through the fence, and he's
here's how
just
you do
washing
it.
a boat.
You would walk up to him and be like, "Hey, Robert, we're a documentary crew. We just wanted to talk to you about DB Cooper." And then you get the, you know what I mean? You don't. Why would you?
But yeah, I mean, after that, Rackstraw lawyered up. He got all these lawyers so that he would stop being harassed by these people, and never ended up saying anything. And then he's dead now. So now,
And he didn't die with a lot of money, did he? Or
Not
just,
that I'm aware of.
nothing substantial, nothing unexplainable.
No, which if he did it, I mean, if you go to the extent that he did to hijack the plane, jump out of the plane, and never be found, like you have this master plan, there's no way that you don't hide that money in banks all over the place or whatever you got to do to where it's
afterwards.
not traceable. Which I guess if he had put it in a bank, he would have got caught. So I would
Because of the
assume
serial
because of
numbers.
serial numbers.
So if he did spend any
Maybe.
of this money, he either had to spend them one bill at a time at
Well,
convenience stores, or even that.
I just wonder,
I think
like,
they would have found at least at some point if it got into circulation,
yeah,
at least one of these bills.
and they've never found any of them.
I
have
really
they?
don't think he ever spent any of this money. I think he just kept it or buried it somewhere. And
What if it's kept somewhere and like put in a trust fund for somebody or something?
That
And
could
he's
be
just-
possible.
And they just like randomly start turning up.
yeah,
Can you imagine? That would be insane. Like
Tell me this.
just old briefcase that he'd get passed down to like his kids or something, and he's like, "Here's a suitcase full of cash. Enjoy." And they go spend it, and the FBI's like, "Woo woo woo."
What's the process of tracking serial numbers? Do you know?
Well, I mean, on cash, it would be whenever the business would cash it. You don't like
It would be when it
you
gets
don't
back to a bank.
Yeah, you
and a
don't-
bank is connected to
only the banks really scan
like the
the serial
FBI and
numbers.
stuff, right?
So like that's why using cash, like if you're a criminal, is like really good because like credit cards and stuff, they can instantly track wherever you are. But cash, I mean, unless they know for 100% that you paid with those bills at the register with those serial numbers, if that's what they were tracking. And I mean, they won't know till it gets to the bank, and so they would have to like do some serious digging to get back to you actually spending those bills at that register at this time.
What if you use a currency exchange in Canada?
ooh,
What if you got
That's
across
possible.
with the money?
You could
think-
do it quick
I
enough in the
think-
70s before their word got across that
Well, but
You know?
the serial numbers would still turn up, wouldn't they?
yeah.
later.
But they still have not been. They still have not come
Oh,
up.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
So
They would have been found.
yeah,
Interesting.
I don't know.
He just likes stealing stuff. He's a kleptomaniac. He just buried it in the woods by that river.
I think it's just his trophy. I
mean,
don't think he
yeah,
ever
maybe
spent it.
so.
Is this how you get your sick kicks, Mr. Cooper? Yes.
Yeah, dude, it's. I mean, it's crazy. Like the fact that none of the bills have ever turned up is mind
Well,
blowing.
just the ones that were in the riverbed.
Well, yes, but
Which basically
nothing
shows
else.
that
But
like,
nothing
it
That
else.
was
happened.
only like 1%.
yeah, That's crazy.
of the total.
Yeah, because he got $200,000.
I think
Is that
so.
right?
That's a lot
I
in
can't remember off the top of my
1971.
head, but I think that sounds right. It wasn't $1 million or anything
No.
like that.
Well, 200,000
Because
in
then the next,
1971
time,
is like
because then the
$1 million.
next guy
Yeah.
did like $500,000, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he went up,
Yeah.
and it was like I guess the copycat guy, Floyd McCoy Jr.
Did they go over a most likely landing spot? Because I know there's a theory that he
They
did.
used money to get them off of his trail, but that he actually landed. He did a fake jump and actually jumped right
So-
before the plane landed.
So there's conflicting reports as to where they think he jumped, because they know the time that he dropped that the aft stairwell, because they felt the pressure change. But there was actually 2 fighter jets that were scrambled to follow this jet after it took back off, whenever it's allegedly going to Mexico City. And there's one plane that's flying above the airliner and one flying below. Okay, but nobody's like behind the jet. So none of those fighter jets see anybody jump out. And they also, I
Wait,
guess,
why would you fly below?
I know, I don't know, but that's that's what happened.
Let's fly below the plane. That
But
way, if he jumps out at thousands of miles an hour or whatever, hundreds of miles an hour, yeah, he'll just land on the plane, and then he'll roll off of our jet and fall to the earth. Like, come on!
The plane had to land in Reno
And it was dark,
to refuel.
wasn't it?
And the entire time, yeah, this is at night. The entire time after they felt that pressure change all the way up to the landing, the stairwell is down that whole entire time, even during the landing. So he could have jumped out any time between that, because at that point, everybody else that was on the plane was up in the cockpit.
Yep.
There was just the pilots, and I think it
And
had
didn't he
just
make
been
them
one
like
flight
lock
attendant.
themselves
Yeah,
in there?
he made them lock
Yeah.
them in there. So nobody really knows exactly the point when he jumped out. A lot of people assume it was
Yeah,
pretty soon right after he opened the stairs.
but he also smoked some cigarettes while he was back there.
Right, he could have smoked one.
So he may have
Chilled
like
out.
let it down and was like, you know what, I got plenty of time. Let's get some nicotine in me, and we'll jump in a minute.
I will say it probably
He seems like
wouldn't
that
have
kinda
been
guy.
too pleasant to stay in the plane for too long with the stairway down. But yeah, that's another reason why they think he jumped pretty soon after he dropped the stairs. But the location was a very heavily wooded area around the Washington-Oregon border.
Yeah.
Stupid
So that's where they
jets.
think he is, or was.
Still is.
It still is, yeah. Yeah.
That's what happened in Without a Battle. He
Turns
landed in
out
a mine
his
shaft and he
parachute
stayed
broke,
there.
and he just plummeted and divoted into the ground, and he's still there today.
In the movie, there was a snowstorm, and he burned all his money just for a few more moments of life, and that's the lesson. You'll
What-
trade the money in
Sad.
What
for just
movie
one
is it
more day.
where there's someone with a parachute? There's a skeleton in a parachute caught in trees.
Madagascar.
It's not Madagascar.
It is in Madagascar.
It is in Madagascar.
I thought that was still in the plane, though.
Well, there's one in the plane, but there's one hanging by a parachute in the tree that the
Oh.
the plane is in.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I thought it was like Jurassic Park or something.
It's not Jurassic Park.
I feel like
it's-
I
I
remember-
feel like it's a superhero movie or something. Are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I know what you're
Like
talking about as
I
well.
can picture it in my head,
It's incredible.
but I just
dude.
can't think of it. Yeah. Gazer beam.
Asia beam.
Oh my
When he's like in the cave down there,
Yeah.
guy in a mask and a skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
That was creepy as a kid. I was like, oh my God, a dead guy.
Wow, they put this in a kids movie. He did what in his cup?
He did what in his plane?
He did what in his
He
cup?
skyjacked.
Yeah.
He did what in his plane? All right, so
Join the Mile High Club.
it was right. Robert Hansen.
Okay.
Fred, do you not know about this guy? I don't know how the heck
guess
I
not.
came up on this,
How you came up on it?
but he's an American former FBI double agent who spied for Soviet and Russian intelligence services against the United States
Bum, bum, bum.
from 1979 to 2001.
Oh my God.
Dang.
22 years.
His espionage was described by the Department of Justice as, quote, possibly the worst intelligence disaster in U.S. history. He's currently serving 15 consecutive life sentences without parole at ADX Florence, the only federal supermax prison in Florence, Colorado.
Yeah, that's the same prison that has all the
Big guys
all
in
the
it. I
terrorists
also
and
clicked
serial
on
killers.
supermax prison while I was on this Wikipedia article when I looked at it a few days ago. Because I was like, wait a minute, what the heck is a supermax
That's
prison?
like the prison in Men in Black 3.
Yes. Hold on, because I'm going to try to see who else is in this prison.
Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
The Unabomber.
Yeah.
I found it. It is Jurassic Park 3. These people-
There's a roast of us on Reddit called, what's it called?
Skeleton and Parachute JP3. Because they're complaining about the rate of decomposition and how much time canonically passed at the movie.
Oh my god. But yeah, some of the people in there, Ramsey Youssef,
What is this
who
guy's
bombed
name
the
again?
World Trade Center
Robert
in 93.
Hansen, right?
Yeah.
I know the other guy, not what's his name? I can't remember his name, but one of the perpetrators of the Oklahoma City bombing
Mhm.
is there. The Unabomber, several terrorists.
The guy, the Boston Marathon bomber,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
is there. Terry Nichols, that's the
Yeah.
Oklahoma City bombing
They
guy.
just keep these guys there to like interrogate them on the regular.
Well, it's basically cases of people who were not given the death sentence, but they're never ever going to get out of prison.
Whoever that Mexican cartel guy is. The
El
drug
Chapo.
lord. El Chapo, yeah, he's there.
He's
too.
the most recent addition.
attendee.
But anyway, this guy was just a regular FBI agent, and for some reason he sold secrets. He sold thousands of classified documents to the KGB that involved U.S. strategies in the event of nuclear war, development of military weapons, aspect of U.S. counterintelligence. So he was a double agent, right? So he was an FBI agent, but he was selling secrets to the Soviets, basically.
Dang.
But this was the most insane thing to me that I did not know about because this is real. Hold on, let me make sure it's real
This is real.
because it sounds like it should
well,
be real.
hold on. Hold the phone.
Okay, no, it's real.
It's real.
A multi-million-dollar eavesdropping tunnel built by the FBI underneath the Soviet embassy in Washington. They dug a tunnel underneath the embassy and had like microphones up to the ground. Isn't that the funniest thing? Like of all like the high technology, there was like, wait a minute, we dig a tunnel.
We can't bug the place. You know what we should do? Let's dig a tunnel underneath the building.
And then just stick the microphones up close to the little holes. That actually happened.
Excuse me, can you speak louder, please? Can
But,
you imagine being under there? It's like, I can't hear
I
anything.
can't hear anything, and they're speaking Russian. I don't speak Russian. Do you?
Can you
Let me-
speak louder?
Let me get my Google Translate out.
American murder.
Yeah, but he was sentenced to 15 life terms without the possibility of parole.
Jesus Christ.
With him, yeah, they're probably keep him there to like interrogate him. Basically, he's kept in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day.
Oh my God. What does he do for the other hour?
I don't know.
Watches TV.
Maybe he watches YouTube. He watches like primitive builds on YouTube.
Have you watched the show Alone on Netflix?
No, but I hear people talking good things
Yeah,
about it.
I've seen it. I've seen a couple episodes, and like one of the guys that
I
went
prefer
on there,
Man Tracker.
One of the I didn't watch Man Tracker.
Hey, they're running that back. Did you know that?
No.
Not Man Tracker, but I saw a casting call the other day. They're redoing it in New Zealand. but you have to get past special forces operatives who are trained in tracking.
I'm getting chills
fugitives.
thinking about this. I love Mandragora.
Yeah, like Black Ops dudes trained in tracking fugitives. If you can make it past them in New Zealand,
Yeah, I haven't seen Man
You
Tracker.
win the One Ring.
I think it's coming to Discovery.
Of course it is.
I haven't seen Man Tracker, but it's like one of the first episodes, or the whole. I think the whole first season is like around the same group of people, but one of them is that guy that got like really famous on YouTube for primitive building. Like he lived in like a hut and that he made out of mud or whatever for like 3 years, supposedly. So he's like one of the first ones on the first season. I've only watched like 3 or 4 episodes of it, but it's pretty good so far. It's just kind of like, I don't know, not my kind of thing. Like I have other stuff I'd rather watch, but it's pretty good. And like it's interesting because I mean, you know how all those shows are. Like everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna make it till the end and blah 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 blah, and then they lose like
There's always the first people who lose.
they lose like the first or second
The
day.
people who are
and
over
it's
there
like,
not talking to the camera and building their hut, that's who wins.
actually
ironically.
no. Like literally the first season, one of the guys spends like his entire first day building this nice hut and never gets any food, and he quits like day 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is
People
is
don't
dumb.
know, even still then, like people don't know the basics of
Yeah.
actual survival. Not saying I do, but
I definitely don't, but it seems like these people would be pretty good, but it ends up like from what I've seen so far, which I've literally only seen like 3 or 4 episodes, but it's like, okay, yeah, like some of these dudes kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Some of them don't.
well, and from what I've seen too, it seems like near like the middle to end of the season, like people will get out, not even because of necessarily something they've done wrong, but it'll be like they didn't catch that one fish they should have caught that one day just by bad luck. And if they weren't on a TV show, they would then die just because they didn't happen to catch that right fish that one time.
Yeah. Well, in like the first season, which I don't know if it's like this for every season, because I think they have like 7 seasons or something now. But the first one, like they're in grizzly bear country. Like,
So like that's a real
yeah.
thing. Like
Yeah, like literally like the second episode, this dude is standing there, like I think he was cooking or building a fire or something, and he hears something. He's like, what was that? And he turns around. It's a freaking mountain lion, dude. And it's just staring at him. I was like, if that were me, I'd be out right then. I'd push the button. I ain't dealing with a mountain lion.
push the button. Yeah.
and then he like goes back to try to get a bow because he's gonna shoot the thing, and he's like, that was so stupid. I should have just like should have rushed it and like made it climb up a tree so I could have killed it. And I'm like,
No, the best thing
Yeah.
you did, to me, the best thing you could do to a mountain lion is not to make yourself big like a bear, but just to be like just stand there. Don't seem threatening, but don't seem
oh, he was
like
trying to
you're
kill it
delicious.
though.
Because he wants to eat it.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
But there's no way you can
he's
kill a
literally like,
mountain lion.
dang it, I
Like,
screwed
it's
that up.
impossible.
He was gonna shoot it with a bow, man.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, that's what he was gonna do. But yeah, I'm like, these guys are crazy. Like, I would not survive in the wilderness in primitive times.
No. Well, that's what I've always looked at before. Like, I can't see. I have, like, asthma as a child. I would be murked immediately.
Do you
I would
hear
just be
well,
killed.
or are you just like sensory deprived?
I can hear kind of well.
Okay.
I feel like my senses would probably be heightened like Daredevil if
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually had to use them.
Yeah.
But no, I would just get immediately probably
It is funny to
eaten
me,
from
like,
like
when
the
we-
back of the herd.
It is funny to me when we go to a movie and you're like, what the hell did that guy just say? And I'm like, could you not understand him?
Now talking, it's hard for me to hear
Oh, yeah.
sometimes.
That's why we have headphones.
Yes. Get right in there.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah, dude. Show's crazy. Those guys are nuts. I would not want to do that. Yeah. Nuts, dude. DB Cooper.
You know, I got asthma from having mono.
Did you really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. My mom told me that the other day.
I've also had mono.
I didn't kiss anyone though.
You just got mono? Dang, that sucks.
That's the not fun way to get mono.
Yeah.
Mono.
Mono e mono.
Yeah. Jeez. Mono e mono. Oh man, DB Cooper. That show was really good. I will say the series was good. The guys that were in charge of it, you could tell were like really, really into DB Cooper, which is always a good thing. Like it's always good to have somebody make something that they themselves are passionate about, and it's not just like Netflix walked up and was like, "Hey, we think we want to make a show about DB Cooper. Would you guys just be interested in doing it?" Because that's never fun. Like those always just suck.
One thing I liked about this was how broad the I like the talent was, not talent, what it's called, characters. Like you had people on both sides. You had people who were like, it is Rackstraw, like the kind of mold or like the shell of it. It starts and it ends with Rackstraw, and it's completely through the eyes of Rackstraw. But in between are different segments where people will say, "Yeah, the guy who's the main character in this, he's nuts. Like he completely went too far. He's lost himself." And they've got everyone. They've got people who were on the secret, like FBI case. They've got armchair people. They've got the podcast host guy. I thought he was kind of cool, and it shows like how widespread this was at attracting attention.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will say I was kind of upset, which I guess it was probably one of the better ways to do it. I was kind of upset that they like focused on Rackstraw so heavily.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess if that is your prime suspect, like, that's who you should focus on, I guess. But is there really a prime suspect?
They've never just... it's
still
unsolved.
They've never even really named anyone as a prime suspect. Like, there are people who theorize, like, yeah, we think this guy did it.
Well, I mean, if you talk to the FBI, they dismissed Rackstraw as a suspect back in the 70s.
I know.
So...
I mean, really, the whole thing was based on these guys.
It depends on who you are.
I mean, it was based on these guys saying, this is who we think did it, instead of being like, these are who all the possible suspects were. You make your decision on who you think actually did it. It was like we think Rackstraw did it, and there's no other way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it was like, well, it could be that Rackstraw was a fan of the Dan Cooper comics, and it was like, okay, you're really stretching stuff here. Like, unless you found some kind of evidence where he had possession of a Dan Cooper comic, like, that's a big stretch to say, like, oh yeah, he was probably a fan of it.
And there's one thing we haven't brought up. What was the reason that main investigation team got so upset at the History Channel special? Like, they went behind their backs and got...
Yeah, it's like they told the hosts of that show, whenever that original history documentary came out, that since they weren't able to find any definitive evidence that Rackstraw was DB Cooper, then the History Channel told the hosts, who were essentially just kind of third-party people, to turn on him and be like, well, why the hell haven't you found anything?
Well, they got wasn't a flight attendant.
Yeah.
She like signed something or she looked at something. She's like, yeah, it's not him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That flight attendant, who was really the only one that interacted with DB Cooper on the plane, she said that not only did it not look like him when shown a picture of Robert Rackstraw, that voice recordings didn't sound like him either.
Oh, yeah.
But she was asked like 40 years later, how do you remember what a guy looks like that was wearing sunglasses and what his voice sounds like 40 years later? Because I try to picture, I do this every once in a while, and like I'll be scrolling through Facebook and I'll come across somebody that I'm friends with that I haven't seen in a decade, and I try in my head to think of, what does this person's voice sound like?
And you can't.
And I'm like,
see, I'm actually
weird.
usually pretty good about that.
I've done that before,
but
though.
It's also a different situation. Like if someone handed you a note on a plane that said they had a bomb, like that's definitely a different situation. Like I feel like that would kind of be burned in your memory compared to just somebody who's like, hey, can you get me a freaking whiskey and Coke or something? Like,
sure. Oh, yeah.
Like that would be something that you would probably remember for the rest of your life, like what he sounded like, what he looked like. And so I feel like
Hello, I have a bomb on this plane. I am a Swedish pilot here to fly the plane.
hello. Welcome to
That's
my
why-
welcome to my Swedish bakery.
You can imagine
That's why he wrote the notes, though. He had a bad.
DB
yeah.
Cooper, and they actually do bring this up in the documentary. This flight attendant said that the DB Cooper was probably wearing a lot of makeup. Like, do you remember them saying that? Like, he looked like he was caked with makeup. So he had some kind of a disguise.
Mhm,
I mean, it may
right.
not have been like a
Maybe
mask
dyed-
or anything.
Dyed hair
But
too.
you can
Right.
also imagine that if he's carrying out the skyjacking, he's probably not going to try to use his regular voice
Mm-hmm.
if he's
Yeah.
conscious about this. I mean, maybe he did use his regular voice, but I mean, if it was
All right,
me, I
put
would,
the money in the basket.
I would probably try to disguise my voice
There's
a
a
little
bomb on this
Excuse me,
plane.
ma'am. You probably want to read that note.
bit. So I mean,
Come on, man.
Oh, there's a bomb on this plane. Oh.
this whole idea that
He's Mickey
this
Mouse
one
now.
flight attendant can not
There's
only point
a
out
bomb on
exactly
this
what he looked like,
plane.
but also what his voice sounded like 40 years later.
Yes.
I think.
Oh yeah,
I
and
think
I mean,
she needs to be dismissed.
And I think they brought up a part in the series that talked about the awkwardness of some of the phrasing in the letter.
yeah,
Like it wasn't like he was a Native American speaker. It could have been chance that he picked certain phrases, but it was more
spoke
like
Native American.
I was going to say, it was written in Navajo.
Or-
He's a Native American speaker.
that he was a native English
Speaker.
there we go.
speaker in America. Because he
Yes.
could have been a Canadian English speaker,
Yeah,
but he was not a native speaker to the U.S.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
she
What-
could
what
tell
if-
by the way he wrote that note. He was not Native American.
What if they looked at the note and they realized, like now looking back from our time to then, that he wrote it in
they
like
still have the note?
Yeah, they do.
that he wrote it in like T9 like slang,
Did they ever
like
get
he ended
Rackstraw
it
to
with
write
LOL. And we're like, wait a minute, hold on.
I think they, since he was being investigated for that
Yeah,
murder of his father, they have handwriting samples,
and those don't match
but
up.
I don't think they ended up matching up.
Okay,
In that
Then why
one
are
guy.
they so sold on this guy? If he's been dismissed as by the FBI as being a suspect, which that could be
Well,
some fishy stuff, you never know.
First of all, his name's cool.
oh yeah,
Second, he kind of matches up, and the company that he kept was either he did not. I think they said earlier in his life. I remember they said he did not keep the best company, and so a lot of people, quote unquote, turned on him and said that he was DB Cooper.
when he may have been some other kind of.
Well, and then
criminal.
just some of the other stuff that he does pull in his life that he does get caught for. Like one of the things is he tries to do an insurance scam with one of his personal planes. He flew out. I think it was just in a Cessna. He flew out over the ocean, made a mayday call that he was going down, and then he landed at a different airport. Claimed that the plane that he was flying crashed, but he ended up repainting the plane and putting like some fake serial number on it, and then he got caught for that. So, I mean, just
He's already out
his,
there doing
his,
stuff.
his criminal past
Yeah.
is one of the things that keeps him as a suspect. I know that's not a prime thing.
would
to
that have been
point-
before or after the DB Cooper skyjacking?
I think that was after. Yeah.
See, I just feel like someone who carries out a crime and executes it as well as the DB Cooper thing was executed, that you're careful enough and you're detailed enough to not get caught for something like that.
Right. You would either never do anything like that again, or your other crimes would be similarly planned and,
Yeah.
and not discovered, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do that though, because part of me thinks that part of the reason that, like the psychology of criminality, you never start out with a huge crime.
Mm-hmm.
You always build up. There's like this funnel toward bigger and bigger crimes, and even if you get a lot of money from one, you can never just stop.
It's never enough.
So I don't think you go to a plane hijacking and then start
Leave
doing
your tie.
insurance fraud and just stuff that in like a criminal sense, it's not the riskiest. Like he gets in trouble for faking this plane trying to get insurance money, but it's not like he would have spent the rest of his life in prison for endangering people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me thinks that gives extra credibility to the theory that it's either someone on inside intelligence with the CIA or someone involved in the past with Canadian intelligence.
Yeah, someone who carries out something like a skyjacking with all the money that he gets. Like you can't go backwards once you get to that level.
It's almost
you have to top it.
Catch
somehow.
me if you can.
Yeah, I mean, literally.
It's almost like this was for a spy and it was a mission given to them from someone higher up. Because just the psychology of criminality, I don't know if you can hijack a plane and then think, okay, that's great, I'm done.
Yeah, most
if you're
people
willing to
wouldn't
do
be
that,
able to.
You would steal a submarine or something cool next. I mean,
Fast and Furious.
yeah, literally. Always gets
Now-
bigger.
How would y'all feel if it came out that they had a copy of the note, and this is what it really said?
Wingdings.
Like, yeah, it was written in Wingdings. It was written in Joker Man. It's like, wait a minute, this font doesn't exist yet. It was written in Comic Sans, but handwritten.
That would be comical.
Okay, Sans, and okay,
It's not called Comical Sans, bro.
shut up. It happened in 1971,
It was
but
you,
it
wasn't it?
came out that the note said
My name is
TBH.
Braxton, and I'm from the year 2020.
no, and the note said TBH. I got a bomb on this plane. LMAO, no cap. What if it said that? What would you do?
Well, I'm pretty sure it doesn't say that.
No, but what if?
I don't know what I would do.
I don't know, man. Would I care?
That's also one of the funniest things is to instead of saying like, "What would you think if this happened?" If someone asks a hypothetical question like that, and they say a parenthetical question,
It has to be a parenthesis.
and they said, what would you do? Like, that's such the funniest thing to me is people say, what would you do? Like, well, nothing. Like, just say, what do you think about this? Like, what would you do if like Santa Claus was a mean guy?
What would
I
you
don't
do
know.
if
I
you
wouldn't
had been
do
on that
anything.
plane with DB Cooper? We wouldn't have known. Like, come on, dude. Would you have stopped him?
Like, what would you do if like Cheetos tasted bad?
Turns out
I wouldn't eat
pie
that.
you ate was a bomb.
Like, no, on the DB Cooper note said, I bought this pie from a group of pirates that were selling pies shaped like bombs.
Oh, man. I guess they had pretty good rates
Okay, yeah,
on
show
their
of
pies.
hands. Who thinks the bomb was
Pie
actually
rates.
real?
No
Does
one.
anyone think it was real?
No.
No.
You don't need a real bomb. You
Well-
just need them to think you have one.
You have to have a real looking bomb.
True.
Yeah.
But
You're a spin bomb machine.
I don't think DB Cooper ever had any intent to hurt anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
can you imagine if he had given her that note, opened up his briefcase, and it looked like a bomb, and they actually did something, and he was like, "What bomb? I don't have a bomb. I don't even know how to make a bomb." That would be crazy. She's like, "I saw it with my own eyes," and then she gets arrested.
The old switcheroo.
Yeah. Turns out that that
Well, I think
pie
we've
you
said bomb enough times.
ate was a bomb. Yeah, you can't listen to this at an airport.
No, you can't. No, you're not.
DB Cooper
is the bomb.
is the bomb.
D bomb. D-bomb
and bombs.
Cooper.
You're probably not welcome at airports. Oh my gosh.
D-bomb Cooper.
Can you imagine if you made a fake book called How to Pull Off a Skyjacking and you pulled it out at an airport to read it?
That's kind of like the O.J. Simpson thing.
What do you mean?
He wrote a book called like If I Did It.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Have you seen? So whenever he had the civil trial, O.J. Simpson, all the profits from him publishing that book, that's If I Did It, they went to the Brown family. One of the, I guess it was his wife that he murdered.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever, yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
But whenever they're still producing this book, but they changed the cover on it, and even though it's still titled If I Did It, they like make the F on if like
Small.
super small, or I guess it was just the if.
They make
altogether.
if it's
They
small.
make it like super tiny.
So it's
on the
like
cover,
I
so
Did
it
It
just
by
looks
O.J.
like
Simpson.
I did it. Yeah, that's a true story.
That's bad.
But yeah, like all the profits
True
from that
story,
book
bro.
being sold now go to
Oh, right. Yeah.
True story.
not to O.J.
bro.
Simpson.
Yeah, after the
True
trial.
story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dang.
Well, OG. Simpson.
No, O.J.
what?
Good night, everybody.
What was that?
I was like, oh, gee, we've come to the end of the podcast. Oh, golly gosh, gee willikers.
Okay, then. It's a Pause the Fury moment right there, if I've ever seen one.
Coming home.
You're not gonna, no, okay. Cool.
It's been a long day
Yeah, no one cares.
without you, my friend.
Go ahead. Keep singing. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on Spotify. We are at Question at Hand on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find all those links as well as links to our Discord and Reddit pages at thequestionathand.com. Braxton was singing. Hope you liked it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
But I'll tell you all about it when I diesel event.